How high is your EQ? Let's dive into the Emotional Solar Plexus Center and learn a little bit more about your emotional intelligence. So your emotional solar plexus is this little triangle right here on the right-hand side of your body graph. It rules our emotions, our emotional intelligence, and how we process and filter emotions throughout our body. It also has to do with our nervous system. Learning about your emotional solar plexus and its definition is so powerful when you understand how you are meant to experience emotions in this world and how you're meant to work through them. 51% of the population has this center defined or colored in. If you have this center defined, no matter what, this is your authority. The emotional solar plexus is the first authority on the hierarchy. So if you have this defined, then that is your authority. And you could have this defined and have this be your authority as a projector, a manifester, a generator, and a manifesting generator. The only energy type that cannot have this as their authority is a reflector, because all reflectors are undefined in all centers. So let's dive into what this means if you are defined in your emotional solar plexus. With this defined or colored in, this means that you experience the way that you process, filter, and manage emotions in a very consistent way. Just like all centers that are defined, this energy is consistent within you, and you have a specific way of processing this energy. And this energy just happens to be emotions. So what's very interesting about the defined emotional solar plexus is that it goes through something called an emotional wave. This is when your emotions will fluctuate up and down in a certain type of wave. It depends on what channels you have defined that determines your wave. But they will go up and down for no apparent reason. You could wake up happy one morning, you could wake up sad for one morning, and have no reason why you are feeling this way. However, this is your gift and your strength in life. You are meant to work through these emotions, learn the best way to process them, and then as you process and filter them, you emanate your magnetism, and you're showing the world how to deal with the full range of emotions. Because you're defined here, you're not necessarily taking on emotions from other people. You're the one who's giving the emotional experiences to others, because you're the one that's going through the emotions. And then the people who are undefined here, or this is not colored in or white, they're the ones who are experiencing your range of emotions. So learning to process your emotions in a very healthy way, whether that be through regulating your nervous system, exercising, breath work, whatever you do, you know what is going to work best for you to process through that emotions, because you are aware of your emotions. You're very in tune with the emotions that you're feeling. Your job, especially with this emotional authority, is to ensure that you're making decisions from a neutral place. You can learn more about the emotional authority aspect of this in the emotional authority video. No matter what, though, your job is to feel the full spectrum of the emotions that you have. Because if you're here to bring others and share emotions with others, you need to know what that full spectrum of emotions is and not repress it, not shove it inside. That's why it's so important to have a healthy way to process these emotions, because you're here to teach others to process these emotions. Your emotional solar plexus and your emotions is part of who you are, and it should be brought into everything that you do. Whether it's your business, your life, your career, it needs to be brought into your work and your medicine. If you're out of alignment here, this is where that shame around emotions or this guilt around emotions or even overwhelm around emotions can cause you to start repressing them and hiding them and feeling that shame and guilt around them. And as overwhelming as it can be, sometimes to have these emotions and have no reason behind them, this is where your healing magic comes in. Because when you learn how to process in an efficient and effective way for you, that's when you are not only healing yourself, but you're healing others. You're sharing this medicine with others. You're giving others the experience of the emotion and also the experience of how you work through it. So repressing and hiding is actually going to be storing the repressed emotions in your body and can physically start to impact you. It can impact your nervous system when you're not regulating, when you're not processing. And so part of your job and your journey is to work through when you are not in alignment or when you're making emotionally charged decisions or you're trying to repress and have all these negative feelings about your emotions. Bring yourself back into alignment, bring yourself back into center so that you can use your emotions as the magic that they are. If you are undefined in this center, this means that this center, the emotional solar plexus on your chart, is white. When you are undefined in any center, but especially in this one, you are an empath. You are taking on, in the emotional solar plexus, you're taking on the emotions and energies of others that you're around or the environment that you're in. And not only do you take them on and feel them as if they are your own, but you amplify them. This is a center of wisdom for you because not only are you taking on other people's emotions and the environment and the people that you're around, but you also, of course, experience your own emotions. So a lot of times it's coming back to yourself and saying, is this emotion mine? Is this a feeling that I have? Is there a cause or a reason behind it? Because for you, there is a cause or a reason behind it. And it may be something that is inside of you, or it may be somebody else's, and you can come up with your own process after looking to the defined emotional solar plexuses of the world, how to release it and let it go, clear out that energy so that you don't amplify it, so that you don't take it in and escalate a feeling that doesn't even belong to you to begin with. Sometimes this can get confusing for you because you might not even know where an emotion is coming from. But for you, an emotion always has a cause, which is what makes it different from the defined emotional solar plexus. Their emotions may not have a cause, but yours do. Even if you don't know where it's coming from, yours has a cause. And so not knowing where this emotion is coming from is a telltale sign that it is not yours. And when you bring yourself to a space or an environment that is expanding to you, where you are alone, you're going to be able to feel that release. You're going to be able to feel like, okay, that's not my emotion. I was taking it on from somebody else, and you're coming back to yourself. When you're in alignment, this is when you are a beautiful coach in this area. You can hold space for others with your emotional wisdom and hold space to be an emotional healer for others, because you actually feel the feelings that they're feeling in a certain way and can help them work through it, because you're seeing all the different ways that emotions are processed because you're open here. You're gaining the wisdom of all the different processing ways of regulating the nervous system, of somatic release, all of these different ways to process and work through emotions. And your magic is helping others through that. When you're in alignment here, also, you know when an emotion is yours and when it's not. You're highly in tune with when you are personally feeling something versus when you're taking something on from somebody else. It's really important to have strong emotional boundaries, to know when you first get that intuitive hit or that feeling, this is not mine. I'm not going to take this on. It is not my job to take this on. Look to yourself and your emotions and your ways of processing things, and you know that you are very cool, calm, and collect most of the time unless you're in your own feelings. And you know when you take something on from somebody else, you're able to, number one, distinguish it, but also know when it's time to let it go. And I just want to point out here too, because I am undefined in this center, sometimes with undefined emotional solar plexuses, it may not even be a person or an environment that you're taking emotions on from. It can be like putting yourself in a different reality. So for example, if you're reading a book that's very emotionally charged, or you are watching a movie that's very emotionally charged, you can take that on and amplify it. When I'm watching movies, sometimes I will get so emotionally invested that and let's say it's a very sad movie, like I will be sad for days afterward because I'm still feeling and taking on the storyline of those characters. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a person or an environment. It can also be like a reality you're putting yourself into through entertainment as well. That's why the news is also very hard sometimes for people with undefined emotional solar plexuses. And that's why I'm very selective about how much news I read or watch. I actually try not to watch it. I try to only read it, and very factual based and in small doses, so that I can manage how my emotions are reacting or what I'm taking on. If you're out of alignment with an undefined emotional solar plexus, what's really interesting that happens is you kind of get this fear of emotions because you are experiencing so much from the world around you. Sometimes that can be overwhelming to you, just like emotions are overwhelming for the defined emotional. With this fear of emotion, it's like you don't want to feel anything. You don't want to take anything on. It's just too much. And so you might avoid conflict because you're afraid that you're going to feel something that you don't want to feel, or you avoid trying to take action in your life, or you numb yourself out a little bit because it's too much. You find ways to numb rather than process, move through, and find joy. And lastly, you might even look to seek opportunities for external circumstances in order to feel something. The very common one in the manifestation world and small entrepreneurial world is, when I have the clients, when I have the money, then I'm going to feel satisfied. But this is actually postponing your taking action, your confidence, and actually the manifestation itself, because you're always putting it off in the future rather than looking to the present and being grateful for what you have. So one tip for alignment, whether you are defined or undefined in this center, is to learn how you specifically process emotions. Now, both of these types, defined and undefined in this center, can feel overwhelmed around feelings. And one way to support that is learning your processing system. For people who are defined here, you're going to have a unique and consistent way that you go to. For people who are undefined, you get to taste, test, and try on processing things for you. So while a defined person may have a list of 5 things that they know that they can go to and they know that it works because their energy is consistent here, a person who's undefined here may have a list of 20, and they'll dabble in this and it works for a little while and then it doesn't work, and then they'll dabble in this and it works for a little while and it doesn't work. So it's about finding what works, taking it, and then leaving what doesn't, and not having judgment around that. It's using your intuition for both of these, defined and undefined, to help you work through and process your emotions in the most nurturing and supportive way for you. And for up-leveling your life, your business, and career, understanding your emotional intelligence. That's being highly aware of your emotions at a specific time and taking ownership for them is a very potent tool to have in your toolbox. Again, whether you're defined or undefined. Because when your emotions are, especially this one for defined, when your emotions are such a part of who you are, they need to be a part of what you do. They're a part of your medicine. And for those who are undefined, knowing your emotional intelligence when something is and is not yours is going to help you in your life, business, and career, because it's going to help you and have that savviness of what is mine and what is not, which also helps you tune in to the emotions of the people around you and hold space for them and be a support for them as well. If you are defined or undefined in your emotional solar plexus, I would love to hear about you and your experiences below in the comments. And if you want to dive deeper into learning about your type, your strategy, your authority, I encourage you to join my free Back to Basics Masterclass or download the Foundations Guide, where you can dive deep into practical tips and strategies to start implementing and living your design today. Those links are below. And if you would rather just have it all done for you and tied up with a nice neat little bow, you can always book a reading with me where we dive deep into your chart to highlight your gifts, your strengths, and how to unlock your path to purpose and prosperity. I will see you next time.